So funny.
Welcome to the Fredonia Central School Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. We start each meeting with the pledge of the flag, so if you please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, so Ms. Morrison is down working the voting in the cafeteria, so we need a motion to appoint Mr. Forbes as our clerk.
So moved.
A second. Oh, wow, okay. You three are going to be very busy today, okay? Very busy with motions. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I wasn't going to ask if there was any questions on that, but I think he's good, so we're good. Let's see here, what's next? I've got crisscrosses all over the place. We need to add an addendum tonight, which I think the addendum, yeah, it all falls under consent. So I'll speak on the addendum in a minute, but we also need to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of May 20th, 2025, including personnel excluding C and new business excluding D. I have a motion for that. So Mr. Marshall, second. Ms. Hahn, thank you. Is there anything that anyone would like pulled out of consent or the addendum tonight? All good? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, is correct. It looks like now we're moving into comments from the public. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. Concerns and comments during this session should be directly related to the agenda. Is there anybody who would like to speak tonight to the board?
Looks like a few of those seniors want to speak.
Yeah. You know, last year they all sat in the back, so don't do that.
This is an improvement.
It's great to be up here, up close. Okay, well then we're going to move on to the minutes, and we have 3 minutes to approve tonight for housekeeping. First is to approve the minutes from the facilities meeting of April 29th, 2025. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
First and a second there. Any comments on the facilities meeting from the board? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we need to approve the special budget hearing meeting of May 6, 2025. A motion? So, Mr. Marshall, a second?
Second.
Ms. Hahn, thank you. Any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And finally, we have to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 6, 2025. A motion for that? Mr. Marshall, second?
Second.
There you go. Evening it out. Any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving right into financial treasurer's report. Well, I don't think we have a treasurer's report tonight, but we do have one item to approve a 31-day emergency transportation contract. Motion, please.
So moved.
Ms. Hahn, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boardman. Mr. Forbes?
Yeah, this is, you're allowed to have 2 31-day emergency contracts for transportation, so this is the second one of 2 for the foster student who's currently residing in Jamestown. And then when you run to the end of that, which is May 31st, then we have to go to bid, which you'll have at the next meeting, the results of that.
Any questions at all? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Under personnel, I think we have one item, right? One item, it's 6C, extension of probationary period for teacher under the Jewel agreement. Motion, please.
So moved.
Ms. Hahn, a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall, Dr. Zoix, can you expand on this, what this means?
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear, this is kind of a unique scenario. You might remember Ms. Krenzer was a science teacher here in the middle school and was awarded tenure a few years ago, and then she decided to switch to technology, which would put her back to a probationary, non-tenured position. Under COVID regulations, there was some leeway with certifications, and she's been working on her certifications. but that's taken a little bit longer than we anticipated, so she should have her certification wrapped up in the next few months, but it wouldn't be before her tenure date, which would be the end of this school year. So we're just extending the tenure date 1 year in order to allow her time to get certified. So this is just an adjustment to adapt to the situation, and does not signify that anything has not gone well or there's a problem or anything like that. It's really just a certification issue.
Great. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then, that's it for personnel, and then I think it's new business. New business, we have one item. It's a resolution declaring the district's proposed capital outlay project to be an unlisted action under SECWA, and authorizing and directing the inclusion of the funding for such project in the district's proposed 25-26 budget. I have a motion to bring that to the table.
So moved.
Mr. Marshall?
Second.
Ms. Hahn, thank you. So Dr. Ziliak, not only clarification for the board, but for the public, I guess.
Yeah, so a couple things here. So this is not the outlay project that's going to occur this summer. Again, that involves accessibility to the main campus playground, as well as some flooring at the elementary school. This is the outlay project that will happen next summer, a year from this summer. That would involve improvements on our softball field and also some more flooring in the elementary school. So this is just a resolution that outlines what the work will be done and is proposed, and all the legal language that would go along with that. So this is nothing new. If you look back at our older board agendas, this would be the same resolution you see every year, and just sort of the scope of the work is changed out.
Any questions at all? So this is just this is an annual one as opposed to Prop 1, which was voted on in December.
Yeah.
This is a separate entity, and how much is paid for by New York State on this?
Yeah, so the same. So just as a review, so each year we have the ability to do what's called a $100,000 outlay project. It can't exceed $100,000, and typically when you factor in some engineering fees, some architect fees, if you do work outdoors, you have to do at least $10,000 of work indoors. So the bulk of the project, in this case, which would be on the softball field, will probably total in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. Another $10,000 for the work that will be done indoor, another 10 or so for those fees and services. And the good thing about this is aided just like a capital project, so we will get 82.7% back on the work that is done.
And you mentioned history that the one that we approved last year is for adaptive playground at
Yep.
Main Street. What was it before that? What was the year before?
I think we did paving at Wheelock the year before for the most part. I think
And
the year,
flooring.
say it again?
And flooring.
Yeah, and I think the one before that was the entryway. That got a little interesting, but the entryway with, I don't know if there was anything else with the entryway. No,
Security.
just that.
Is that we like, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's standard practice in most districts to do one a year, seeing that the bang for our buck is certainly worthwhile, and that, you know, ultimately, you know, as long as that project is 100% aidable, and we typically work with Young Right to make sure it is, you know, you spend $100,000 and get 82.7 back. So,
Okay. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving right through it. On to our second round of public comment. I won't repeat. Anybody like to speak to the board on any general topic? Okay, so we're into the superintendent's report.
yeah, a few things, not to belabor the point, but I did want to mention, you probably noticed in personnel, we had a couple resignations, one for retirement, that's Deb Tubio, teacher aide. I don't know if any of our admin wanted to speak to Amy just disappeared.
She had a phone call she took, and I know Deb's been in her building, but I've worked closely with Deb over the years too. I didn't realize she was retiring, but she's been a longtime employee here. She's awesome, always reliable, and I was caught by surprise. I didn't know that she was retiring, but I'm really happy for her, and she's awesome. So I don't know what Amy would say, but Deb's a really good person, so she's been a definite asset to the district.
Appreciate that. Yep, and also, you probably remember, Loretta Lucy just joined us this year, and, you know, plans change and people go in different directions, but I appreciate her coming on board, especially into a position that was vacant for a period of time. I don't know, Ms. Paulhamus, if anything you want to share about Loretta?
She's done a great job in 8th grade in particular, but she's done a great job building relationships with kids, the team, and their families. So as Dr. Ziliak said, plans have changed and circumstances change, but we have very much appreciated the work that she did while she was here.
Absolutely. I also just wanted to acknowledge the budget vote that's happening currently. Mr. Paschke opened the voting at 2 o'clock today. It'll end at 9, and you know, we did our best to communicate the details of our budget, and also just encouraging people to participate, have their voice heard, and try to get to the high school cafeteria tonight to cast their vote. So we'll be hopefully finding out where we stand a little bit after 9 tonight, and we'll obviously share that out with the community as soon as we possibly can. You also might have noticed a article in the Observer, I believe it was back on Friday, related to water testing that we need to do in the school district every 5 years that is pertained to any lead that's found in the water. So we are required to do testing every 5 years. We did it in 2016, and again in 2021, and we are in the midst of completing it right now. In talking with other students who have older buildings, older districts, buildings that haven't been built in the last really 20 to maybe even 30 years, it is not that unusual to see some traces of lead in the water. Obviously, we don't want anyone to be exposed to that lead. We don't want anybody to be drinking water that contains traces of lead. So if any of the testing came back above the threshold of 5 parts per billion, which is the cutoff by the state, those outlets are initially shut off, and then there is a sign posted that no one should be drinking that water. What we're required to do after that is retest all of those outlets and verify that they are indeed over or contain more lead than the state allows. And then we need to make a good faith effort to not only educate people about the lead testing, and recently I sent out an email to our teachers that asking them to share information about the lead testing with the students, as well as just reviewing, even if it's pretty obvious, the stickers that we have on outlets saying do not drink the water, but just making sure everybody's in the loop. Ultimately, if in the retest those outlets test over again, it's our obligation to continue to mitigate. So usually the first step is to change out the fixture. Part of the reason an outlet could test over the limit is that back in the day, plumbers, when installing fixtures, faucets, whatever it might be, used actually solder that contained lead. Since then, you're no longer able to do that. But that would be our first step in looking at, is this coming from that fixture and where the solder contained lead, and that is producing these results. So this is something we take seriously. Again, it's not too far out of line with what other districts are seeing. And we'll keep our families and district aware of what's happening. I did communicate through email internally to everybody who works here. We sent another communication to our families through our mass communication system I did get a couple calls with people who were concerned, and I just explained to them what we're doing and how we try to mitigate the situation and make sure that everyone's in a good place and healthy within the district. So this is a work in progress at the moment, but I just wanted to address it since there was an article in the paper. I don't know if you have any questions regarding our water testing.
Well, it's great that we're testing. We wouldn't know all problems unless we did that, so.
Exactly. The other thing I wanted to mention real quickly, if you look up at the screen behind me, at the beginning of this year, we really solidified a long-term plan for the district. And we had some focus areas there: literacy, curriculum, intervention, leader in me, and focus on the Cubby habits, as well as working on a capital project. These were things that we identified in the district through a very collaborative process, sending out surveys to the community, bringing a group of stakeholders together to discuss this, and land on these common themes that were in the feedback that people believed were really important to our district. I just want to share a little short update tonight. We've been working on this for about a year now, and we made some good progress. You know, in the past in the district, in terms of literacy, we had a lot of people doing a lot of good work and a lot of good things, but we were lacking some consistency and some unity around how we were instructing in literacy and what resources we were using to do that. So what we did this year is took a step when we got involved in a pilot of a reading product into reading, which we've been working with for the past year. And this is not only getting us to think about how do we align from teacher to teacher in terms of our reading instruction, how do we align from grade to grade in terms of our reading instruction, and how also do we align with the science of reading, which the governor and state ed is saying should be at the heart of the work that we are doing now. You've probably heard Dr. Wright in at least 2 meetings now talk about a literacy attestation that she is leading. I appreciate her help and guidance here. That is asking the district to demonstrate that we're making strides in this area and that we are aligning our instruction to the science of reading. And this pilot is helping us do that. The attestation is helping us move forward a little bit more quickly than we probably would if there wasn't this requirement for the state. In terms of professional development, to support that, we continue with letters training, which is training in best practices and how to instruct reading, and also aligns to the science of reading. And we've had a number of our, especially at the lower grades, teachers not only participate in year 1 of this training, but also now in year 2. The feedback on this training has been really complimentary, which isn't always the case when we do professional development, and teachers are feeling like this is really worthwhile, and they're gaining a lot of knowledge from these experiences. So we're happy to be moving forward in this work. We're happy to have our curriculum council involved in these conversations, not only to bring general understanding to the group, but also to have them become familiar with the work that's happening across the district that wouldn't necessarily be related to some parts of our district. Again, this is mainly at the lower levels right now, less at the middle school, high school, but that's part of the long-term plan. That's just one piece of the update, but I thought I'd pause after each one and give you a chance to ask some questions.
So we're a little ahead of the game because the state's requiring reading when we started for this year. Is it this year that they're starting that requirement? Aren't they, is there a focus from the state on reading?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. With the attestation work, I'll let Dr. Wright speak to that.
Sure, happy to. So the new requirement by the state is this pre-K through third grade. And that's the first time that early learning has ever been included into an initiative with what they consider to be school age or compulsory education, which is really grades 1 through 12. That's what's required. And so it's been really wonderful to be able to have those conversations with the teachers of our youngest learners all the way up. And literacy is huge. Literacy is a huge, huge, huge thing, and I invite any admin to jump in here too. So when we talk about reading, reading is part of literacy. When we talk about talking, part of literacy. When we talk about writing, that's literacy. We talk about sounds, literacy. Those squiggles that make up letters, literacy. So again, I think you see that, you know, people often interchange the words reading and literacy, and that's not really true. Literacy is huge, so it's a huge, huge thing to tackle and to align because you're doing so many different components of that. Right now, the state has a new requirement out that requires every single district in New York to attest to these certain components of reading that are in the district and that they are aligned, that every single teacher of pre-K is doing them. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. And then we believe they're gonna be pretty soon requiring that of 4th, 5th, and 6th at a minimum, which is elementary education. And one of the interesting things about this is that, and I'll certainly defer to Mrs. Piper for more specifics, is that when you have a universal pre-kindergarten program, which we do, UPK, and you'll see that up there we have the PK, the state, it's also an attestation of PK. But if your district has a universal pre-kindergarten program, which we do, that's where you accept some federal funds to help offset some of your universal pre-kindergarten, and it must be open to all children. There's a lot of very specific requirements. One of those requirements is that you also have a community-based organization, or a CBO, in the community in addition to what's in your school. It's a requirement. And we have to give some funding to that from our allotment of those federal dollars. Well, if your district has a UPK program, then they have to be part of this attestation. So we have to, because you're the overseers of those curriculum, we have to work with the CBO to ensure that they are also aligned to the next generation learning standards, that all of the components that we have to meet, that they are meeting also with what they're teaching. So it's a huge requirement of school districts to meet this attestation. We are so fortunate, and any more on the UPK? With this attestation team, I'm just so proud of the amount of people who are participating in this. We have representation from UPK all the way through 6th grade, ENL, special education, which is just fantastic. Response to intervention, which you can see are all the components of our district plan, looking at this. And one of the other things we have to attest to, in addition to the components, has to do with professional development. What is your district doing to support the professional learning in these literacy components? So that's where we're quite ahead of the game in the sense of we've been doing these letters trainings. We've been offering these different aspects of science of reading. And that's sort of the buzzword right now. Everything has to be aligned to the science of reading. Well, what is that? The science of reading is not a curriculum. It is not. The science of reading is actually brain science. How does the brain take in all of those components of literacy I referred to? And how does it do it specifically at the different developmental stages? So science of reading isn't something just for little kids. Certainly we can learn how do our youngest learners take in those things, and are we aligning to those aspects of it? Are we following the science of reading? And that's where I think sometimes, when you hear about professional development in school, it's so important. Well, as new research comes out, we have to learn about it. And then we have to make sure we're sharing that learning so all of our teachers know it to be able to do that. If you were to say that, a doctor who learned a surgery 20 years ago, wouldn't you want them to be up on the latest and greatest of those? Well, it's the same thing with this. So about 15 years ago, brain science came into how people learn. And so now we have this, and it's something that we didn't learn in college. So now we're able to take that, and that's what letters training is. It takes how the brain works, science of reading, how we take that in, and puts it into a way to understand it and teach it to the youngest learners. Phonological awareness, sounds, breaking those down, the connection of reading, writing. And so what we're doing with the attestation team is we have to look at all of those components. we not only have to attest to what we're doing here, but is what we're doing aligned to the science of reading, how we learn? Is it aligned to what the science of reading says is how you teach those things? And are the materials, curriculum, that we're using aligned to those as well? And how are we supporting our teachers in using those things? So it's a pretty big ask of the state to self-examine when you get down to it, and so our teachers are going and talking to their counterparts and coming back as a representative body. We have the spot where we're putting it. We've had a great, today we had a meeting actually, we had a great discussion, and so I applaud Mrs. Piper, Mr. Jollinger, and Mrs. March, our assistant principal for middle school, who are all, part of this along with our teachers, so. That's the big answer to 3 little letters, the SOR, Science of Reading, but it applies to everything. It would be how you would answer a question like, well, how do I work with, this adult who, is unable to read at a level that helps them in their daily living? Well, that's science of reading. Let's learn how adults take that in and teach in a way that matches it. So it's not something that has like a grade associated with it.
Did you say there's an outside group that you partner with that gets part of the grant money? Who is that outside?
It's Children's Educational Services, or better known as Little Seeds. That's at Left with us. Yeah, it's a great program, and we've been able to partner. And we have informally partnered with them. Now it's more of a formal process, and they're great. It's been good. Win-win.
The second focus area was really around curriculum, and in particular our curriculum review process. We've learned a lot over the last couple of years by, again, a couple of years ago looking at Envision Math, and now working with this pilot in literacy over the last year. And I think by doing so, again, the conversations has been at a particular grade level. Does instruction look from teacher to teacher to teacher? Are students experiencing similar instruction, and is it consistent amongst that grade level? And then when they move on to the next grade level, everybody has a clear understanding of what the students experienced, what they've been exposed to, what they've learned, and what materials were also associated with that instruction. So by working through these 2 areas, we've really developed a model for looking at how do we review curriculum, how do we pose these questions, how do we get input from the people working in the field and the teachers in the classroom. And this is definitely a work in progress, but the next step would be to select another content area. That could be science, social studies, math, English, and follow this same process in one of those content areas. And again, to really think about consistency, to really think about what a student experiences from PK to 12, and are those experiences similar? And as we're teaching, we have an understanding of what's happened before a student has got to us, and then what will happen after a student's got to us. So we are kind of solidifying that right now, and then would like to think a conversation with our ILs, and hopefully that somebody might be excited and be willing to sort of be the guinea pig for this process, and might volunteer their content area for the first run of this outside either of these 2 recent experiences that we've had more as a district. So we're excited about that, and then ultimately the goal is to be on a cycle of, if I'm a social studies teacher, I know that every 4 years or every 5 years we'll engage in a curriculum review, make sure things are up to date, make sure in line with what the state is asking us to do, make sure we've implemented any changes that might have happened in what we're being asked to teach, or the assessments that we're looking at to demonstrate that students have learned. So all of that's in play, and I would say this one is more in the work in progress category. Any questions regarding curriculum review? Another thing we've done, we've made good progress. Each building has really clarified how they're approaching intervention and thinking about when students are struggling, when they're not doing as well as we would like, how are we assisting those students. And each building, to varying degrees, is doing something that includes these steps. steps. Administering some type of diagnostic assessment, and I will speak to what's happening at individual buildings. Collecting that data and then organizing that data in some helpful and understanding way. Reviewing that data either during data team or committee meetings. Looking at how our students compare to other students, either locally or nationally, and then really using those results to determine what students might benefit from some intervention in that particular content area. Oftentimes, buildings have interventionists who specialize in this. A good example would be Mrs. Hill at Wheelock, or Mrs. Hassett and Graham at the elementary school, who then implement evidence-based strategies that will really benefit those students who might not be progressing as quickly as we would like. They monitor progress weekly. They reassess after 6 weeks to determine if the student should exit, continue, or we should adjust those interventions. At Wheelock, they use a number of things to do that. FastBridge 3 times a year. They also use Dr. Strong's assessment that's aligned to New York State K standards. As Mr. Drollinger has presented a couple different times, used the iReady diagnostic at the elementary, same for the middle school, use of iReady. And for the high school, a lot of these products like iReady don't extend past 8th grade. So Mr. Paschke, along with Lisa Reinhardt, who is technically the response to intervention, the RTI instructional leader, have really brought Common Lit on board to think about where our students in terms of their reading level and what areas are strengths and areas of growth within their reading, and then how can really teachers support them and help them in content areas at the high school level. So this has been an exciting development over the past couple of years, and I know she has spent a lot of time assisting teams and other instructors at the high school level. And we're really happy to not only have some of this clarified, but also be moving forward in areas that ultimately results in students being more successful and more productive in their time with us. Any questions on the intervention piece? Another aspect of our long-term plan is this idea of Leader in Me and really focusing on the Covey 7 habits. Again, this looks a little bit different at each building, but at Wheelock, and we've talked about this a couple times, but each building has what's called a lighthouse team, which is really just a group of individuals from that building thinking about how can we learn more about this, how can we implement what this process is about, and how can we really make this work for the nuances of our particular building. So at Wheelock, they continue to meet with the Lighthouse team, as well as our Leader in Me coach, who's been very helpful. They're moving forward with implementing at UPK and kindergarten Leader in Me curriculum within the classroom instruction for next year. So that'll be happening at Wheelock. Similarly, at the elementary school, they've added in their schedule, thanks to Mr. Drollinger, a dedicated time in their master schedule in which they will have time to do what Leader in Me would say direct teach, or incorporate this into their instruction. This will be fully implemented in the fall with 35 weeks of lessons with 4 Leader in Me lessons each week. So nicely done there. At the middle school, again, they have been meeting with their Lighthouse team. At April's staff meeting, they focused on next steps as a building, as well as allowing each staff member to have an opportunity to identify what they are currently doing and how are they connecting to the concepts that we've already learned. There's also a meeting in late May where they're going to continue that conversation and really think about what exactly are the next steps and try to bring some clarity before the end of the school year. At the high school, this is where Leader in Me suggests really involving students right off the bat. So Mr. Paschke has been asking students who would like to be participate in the student Lighthouse team, trying to get that group solidified and they would hit the ground running at the beginning of next school year. Again, thinking about how does this work for our high school, and what would this look like in our school. All of this has been really great progress. This year has really spent focusing on the adult aspect of Leader in Me, making our adults aware of what these concepts are, engaging them in training, and as you noticed, especially at Wheelock in the elementary school, starting in the fall with instruction. Any questions about Leader in Me? Yes?
I'm wondering, when we get a new teacher, how do they get brought up to speed in Leader in Me?
That's a good question. So part of that is tapping into our coaches in Leader in Me. We also have new teacher orientation, which this will be a piece of that. There's no way to get them caught up on everything, but that would be a nice introduction. And then just having follow-up trainings for those people who were not here as it was implemented and needing to dedicate some time to make that happen. So we're excited about that. You know, it's also interesting that some people just randomly from other districts have some experience with it. Others do not. But we want to make sure everybody's up to speed. Yeah. Last focus area was really thinking about and making a concerted effort to upgrade our facilities. Now, you know, we recognize that the capital project we put forward earlier in the year was not as totally successful as we had liked. We had 3 propositions, one of them was approved, 2 was not. But that one proposition does involve $22 million of maintenance work, things that will help keep our students and adults warm, safe, and dry. We absolutely appreciate the community supporting that proposition. And then we also start getting into these outlay projects, these $100,000 projects that begin to chip away at some of the things that were not approved. So the first place we're starting is with some of our athletic fields, and we'll start with our softball field, and I think those fields will continue to be part of those upgrades we do over time. And, you know, Young and Wright has proved to be a really good partner with us, bringing a lot of knowledge, ideas, and expertise to the table. We continue to think about what this looks like long-term for our district in terms of our facilities, from a scope of work point of view and also from a financial point of view. So that's been an ongoing conversation. It's going to move a little bit slower than we were hoping it would, but we are making progress and we are chipping away at those areas of concerns as we engage in this work over time. Any facilities questions?
Thank you, Dr. Ziliaks. It's exciting to go into the second year on this. This is a big picture, proactive stuff, which I think we all like. We all like to be proactive, so looking forward to year 2 and further progress on these. So that's great. The next regular Board of Education meeting will be Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025, here in the high school library at 6 p.m. So any closing comments from the board members? Student member? No closing comments? Okay. Thanks for coming tonight. Yeah. All right. So let's move around. So, Mr. Paschke.
We have a concert tonight at 7:30.
We're going to make it.
Yep, so we'll make it. It'll be my last high school concert, so I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a joy to introduce that for the last time. We have, today we had our College and Career Portfolio Awards breakfast in North Buffalo. Normally we have it kind of in West Seneca. It was a little closer. I was a little surprised it was a bit further of a drive this morning. 2 of our students were honored at this. This is mostly Erie County schools that participate in this. And these are schools that don't just have business classes like we have. They have business academies at their school. This represents like the best of the best business students, and they're invited to this where they find out after participating in quite a process of having their portfolios evaluated and going through interviews with like high-ranking business officials in the area, like the vice president of M&T Bank in Buffalo and things like that. It's highly competitive. And two of our students were selected to attend today, Emily McCann, and she won a $250 scholarship at this, which is outstanding. And Cassandra Kramer, she took home the #1 slot, $5,000 as a scholarship. We've never had anyone win the #1 slot before in 24 years of doing this. So just congratulations to both of those young ladies who did a fantastic job. I just wanted to mention that our track team, on Friday the 16th, at the Super 8 meet of champions, the girls 4x400 relay broke the school record. It was Mariella Russo, Karis Labar, Cece Tonelli, and Delaney Kaiser. They ran a 4:08.96, if that means anything to anybody. So that was great. And then just last, I just wanted to mention that we gave our AP exams. AP season is kind of closed. However, on Friday, there was like a national outage of the internet, and the AP psychology exam had to be canceled. Like, the kids were all sitting there trying to log in, and at the beginning of it, the College Board was I think a little rough on the kids. They were like, if anybody leaves, you're getting a 0 and you can't retake this. And, you know, kids were like, I've got to go to work. I can't wait here much longer. You know, it was kind of like upsetting to, I think, our kids. But finally they came out and said, look, you guys can just go. And so we rescheduled that for this Friday. So our kids will be able to retake it on Friday, no questions asked, and hopefully we'll have a better experience than they did last Friday. That's really all I have, but I just wanted to mention with regard to this rollout, going back to the literacy piece and the curriculum, you know, after going through a lot of these things through decades really here, this is the first time that I think the state has done this the right way, where they're starting at the lower levels and they're going to build the program up, because so many times we've been forced with a situation where, like at the high school level, they're just like, okay, we're just going to plug this in now, and now you have a new Algebra 2 class. And I know the kids didn't have the new Algebra 1 class, and they didn't have any of the stuff in the middle school leading up to it, but they're doing the new thing this year, so good luck. You know? And so at least this is a program that is starting with our youngest kids. It's going to follow them all the way through. And it's just, to me, that's just the right way to do it. So I'm glad that that's a piece. And I just wanted to make sure that people understood that that hasn't been the norm. So it's very appreciated. You know, and certainly the work that our team, our admin team, Margie especially, has been doing on this to make this happen. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's very powerful coming from you with so much experience. So, you know, sequential working ground up, that's great to hear from you.
It is. It's really important. You know, and it fits really well with the leader in me thing, and we're all doing that together. I guess I'm going long again. I can feel the stink guy behind me. It's good. But you know, to Sheila's point, that when we onboard new teachers, I know in the high school, like immediately, since we're bringing our kids on board, the kids are going to be teaching stuff to the teachers. So as they have these kids that are already immersed in this in their classes, they're going to be able to get them up to speed just as well. So that's a nice component of at least the high school section of starting with the kids.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and you know, you only have a couple left sessions, so feel free to go as long as you want. Okay.
No, I'm gonna have bruises in my back. I gotta be careful.
This will tighten this up.
I just wanted to highlight, so BOCES runs monthly forums for different content areas. This one in particular was around technology integration, and we happen to house it here in our district. So Derek Cook, who's one of our 7th grade English teachers, was able to take a team of our students to share with the group, the representatives from other districts, some of the great things that they're doing around the instruction for literary elements and how they've incorporated digital resources like even video gaming and how that can help to support some thoughtful conversations among kids. So I think it's great to sort of highlight that what our kids can show that we're doing well within the district with other, and share that opportunity with other district representatives. Kristen might touch on this, but next week is Special Olympics, and some of our service learning members will be attending to help to support that running smoothly, as well as cheering on some of our district's representatives, so that's exciting. And finally, the big 4-day expedition is underway starting tomorrow. Just months and months worth of preparations and efforts, and poor Steve and Sue Cobb have had to work tirelessly both yesterday and today to create some backup plans and ulterior options, or alternative options rather, just considering the weather forecast over the next few days. So we shall see how that goes, but certainly they have put in a tremendous amount of effort to help help it be as successful as possible. And the kids are gonna have a great time regardless, but, you know, definitely a huge kudos to them for all their work the last minute.
I went on a one-day hike and it was raining and my feet were soaked, but I was having a great time. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was much easier
Makes
than
for
I
good
thought.
stories.
Exactly. Oh, a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Gollinger.
Yeah, so today we welcomed half of the kindergarten class to the elementary school, and we give them a little bit of a tour. They meet the teachers, they see where the bathrooms are, they play on our playground, and we welcomed some student leaders. So we had some 4th grade kids kind of lead some of the things, and that's under the guise of Leader in Me, and we really try and build those kids up. So it was really well received. We've got the second group of kids come in tomorrow, and they really have, in general, a good time. So that was a lot of fun doing that today. And then we continue to reward reading. This Friday we do a popcorn and a movie for kids who have met the certain criteria for the month for reading. Our June award is a dance. We're bringing back a dance, which is kind of fun. We haven't had one of those since my first year, which is 6 years ago now, which is kind of cool. And then we conclude the year with our reading awards ceremony. And this has kind of grown with the help of our teacher leaders, the RTI department. They came to me one time and they had this idea to reward kids with like an award ceremony thing. And it started real small in your gym, and we had like a handful of kids, and now it's in the auditorium, and almost every kid gets an award, which is really pretty cool. And then also within the past 2 years, we really wanted the kids to own their data. So at the start of the year, I talked about iReady, and these kids get a number. I'm a 480. Well, it didn't mean anything to a kid. So what we do is after they take the beginning of the year iReady, we print them a really colorful card, and it shows them what their score was, and then it shows them a goal for the middle of the year and a goal for the end of the year. And then it also shows them a stretch growth goal. So then the kids just understand it, because at the end of the iReady, when they click submit, you got a 490. In years past, it would be like, okay, what does that mean? Well, now they have their goal card next to them, and they, oh, I'm so close to my goal, or I didn't quite make it. What can I do differently the next time? So, and that really came from Leader in Me, because one of the big things is having kids own their data. And another thing that we did with that was we display in the cafeteria all the kids who have met the different levels of points, 100 points, 200, 300, 400, 500 on the 5 pillars. And then these are the kids that will, they can see what level they're at and how many books they need to read through AR points to get to the next level. So this has really all come out of the Leader in Me, and it's been pretty good stuff. So that's what we got going on in the elementary school.
Oh, the data, that's novel.
Yeah.
Novel idea.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of parents who like to see what their kids are doing at the dance. And,
Yeah.
and that's really cool that you bring the kids up, move up day.
Yeah.
And, so that they're not so nervous in the, in the fall. Great idea. Great idea, thanks. Ms. Farrell?
Thanks. I just wanted to say a quick word about Loretta Lucy. I know we touched on her earlier in the agenda, but she is still with us, a special education teacher on my team as well with the 8th grade cohort of kids, and she brought a lot of great energy to us and just a really unique perspective on things, great relationship builder. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I am sad that she's leaving us. I appreciate the strategic plan review. I think that was really good information that we've shared, and it really just ties into all the comments that other people have made, so I think that was a nice overview. And next week on Wednesday, if you are free sometime between 9:15 and about 1:30, please stop over to Fredonia State. Steel Hall and the Dowds Grove, if it's nice outside, will be used for the local Special Olympics event. We have, including, I think, 10 of, is it called Learn and Serve still? Service learning kids from the middle school, and Mrs. Forbes, who coordinated that. We also have those 10 and about 60 student athletes participating, probably 25 adults all heading over there. So we have a really big contingent, so stop by, it's a great day.
Great event. What day is that again?
Wednesday, the 28th,
Wednesday.
next week.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully good weather.
Yeah, right. We're getting out of the way this week. Ms. Piper.
Just a few words about Mrs. Tobio. What a loss. Mrs. Tobio has been in our district for many years. She's worked with us in kindergarten, pre-K, across the elementary school, but just a kind soul. She's nurturing to the students, the kids love her. You see her in the morning, the kids hugging her. She gets kids that come in that might be feeling a little sad, and she brings them around. She just has a gentle touch. So it is a huge loss. We're all feeling very sad that Mrs. Topia is leaving, because she's been a big part of WELAC, so we'll miss her very much. We are having our parent orientations. We had a pre-K parent orientation a couple weeks ago. Brought on in the new parents that are very eager to have their students start school, their first experience in school. And we had our kindergarten parent orientation last week. And again, nice crowd of parents that are really excited to hear about what the expectations are at kindergarten and what their children can expect. And talk a little bit about the jamboree too, which is always nice. Yeah, it's cool. I do want to add too about the Leader in Me, the Lighthouse team. Part of what Covey says is everybody has genius. And we really have embraced that at WELAC, that everybody has genius. That's part of our mission statement we have, is that everybody has genius. And part of our Lighthouse team, which is the leadership team at each building, we have not only teachers, but we have several aides that are part of this as well. And they are so motivated. And it's really brought us a great feel of the entire district, entire staff, what the needs are for the kids, because the aides are the ones that are right there with the kids, on the floor with them, knowing what they need and what's happening. So I just have to put kudos out to our Lighthouse team, especially Margaret Gray, who's amazing, and she is a big leader in that, as well as Cassie Farrell. They're really running with it, so kudos to both of them.
Great, thank you, Ms. Piper. Thank you. Dr. Roll.
All right, thank you. One thing I want to do, a couple shout outs, and one is to Sarah Korzaneski, our assistant principal at the high school, for all of her work with coordinating the APs, the AP exams and troubleshooting everything. Just the yeoman's task that goes along with that. It is all through College Board, which is very, very finicky, very finicky, and it requires a lot of work. So I just want to do a shout out to Sarah. And highlight Amanda Pakanowski at the middle school, innovations teacher. And she did a really neat event with her 7th graders where she invited anybody to come to the middle school and see the product of that project, which was the students had to create an app to solve a real world problem. And when I popped down to kind of peek in, Margaret Gray was there with her STEM class, bringing her young students from the elementary school in there to tour. And it's neat to see the older kids and younger kids talk to each other. But then in came 2nd grade teacher Missy Carmelo with her class. And there's some reading buddy things that go on there too. But you know, it was great to see the kids see these 7th graders in a different light, and to go up to them and to, you know, the kids had to do a presentation and talk about it. And they all sat there and they had nameplates and they had their app out and what the problem was it solved and the questions, and seeing the teachers coaching on both sides, how to ask a question, how to answer a question, how to, you know, and it was just really fun to see. So I want to do a shout out. It was open for a chunk of time. I don't know what other classes may have come through to visit, but while I was there, those were the 2 grade levels that were there. And there were some really interesting some ones. I remember one of the apps had to do with if you don't have any money but you need gas in your car to get home, and it's a kind of like a debity pay ahead thing, and it was so that you would do that, and it would put a hold on your bank, and it was very intricate, and I was like, oh my goodness, look at this. I was just like, really? And I'm like, tell me more, you know? And it was just funny, so I was like, how'd you come up with this? And like, well, sometimes you don't have money for gas. This is very true. So it was just really neat to see some of the thought process behind it, so that was a lot of fun. And then we do have our new faculty orientation coming up in August. The first day of that is Monday, August 18th. We switched that to the week later, and we switched it to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because the week that we had been traditionally doing it also is the NICET, the Teacher Union Conference. And a lot of our mentors and FTA leadership are at that. We don't want to compete with that. We want teachers, you know, our new faculty rather, to have their mentors with them. So this year it will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, August 18, 19, 20, and of course on the first day we invite the Board of Education on Monday, August 18th to come have breakfast with our newest faculty members. That'll be from 8 to 8:30 and meet them. And last year we incorporated some of the 7 habits, and this year we will be doing even more. And the great thing is with our partnership with Leader in Me is we have online access to the courses, so we can have our new faculty sign right up with there, we get their login going, and they can spend some time in those 7 habits. They have that tool with them as they get ready for the school year. So yeah, so we're excited about that.
Yeah. I have to say, the administration with Leader in Me, you can feel it. You can feel the excitement, which the body language is good. It's that's great. And at the end of May. We're all running low on energy, but you can still see the energy of this group. It's great. It's great. Mr. Forrest.
No, she's not here.
Okay, we anticipate the need to enter into executive session tonight to discuss personnel and collective bargaining agreements. Got a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Hahn, a second?
Second.
Mr. Marshall, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're in executive session. Thank you, everybody. Dave, all students can go up and have